What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the collective clips where you already know we're about to get it in. So a lot of you have been asking me to do another scary story, another haunting. You guys like these haunted stories. And I got one for you, man. A place that I actually visit personally, right? This place is a trip. You know, I can definitely tell you I didn't step foot inside the building. Kind of just went around it. And tripped out on it. Didn't even know the history really, until the homie told me. But you could sense a presence there. It just feels different than the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and it's a trip, man. Anyways, you guys see the thumbnail, but before we get into the story, hit the like and subscribe button, put your notification bell on all so you're directed to the dope content that I'm kicking. And here we go, man, another haunted story. For those of you that like to get a little spooky, Los Coches Adobe house in Soledad, California. Now, there's plenty of haunted places or stories about hauntings throughout Northern California and Southern California. I draw the line there and I split them up because, I guess that's just the way it is. Most of my stories are going to be about Northern California, being that's where I'm from. That's where I lived most of my life. And I frequented a lot of places. So anyways, I have a homeboy from Soledad, the city of Soledad, not the prison, right? Got homeboys from prison. I've been in them prisons too, but that prison in particular. But anyways, we slid out to my homeboy's house just to go kick it, go drink, have a good time. And he started telling us, stories about, we got into talking about, war stories and about hauntings and about, scary shit. You know how it is when you're kicking back and you're drinking, it's getting later. And he's like, he did the old Boys in the Hood shit. Want to see a dead body? He said, you want to see one of the scariest places around? So I didn't know the deep history until I actually did my homework and looked into it recently. But we popped in, right? So we pull up to this spot. And to me, it just looks like an old building in the middle of nowhere, man. It looked like, a place from way back in the days that was built was now falling apart. When I got off the car and started to walk around it with my little flashlight and trip out, and the homeboy's like, hey, don't fucking go in there, I'm telling you. At first I was getting pumped up. I was going to go in and peep game, but I felt an eerie presence, man. And it's hard to explain. I've been in situations, I know it's hard for a lot of people to understand unless you felt it or you've seen something crazy. For those of you that don't believe in the paranormal and don't believe in scary stories and shit, you're tripping. It's real, man. There's something else out there. If you're here, there's something there. Best believe that, right? And I just felt like, I can't say that it was haunted, but that something bad had happened there and I wasn't trying to go in. Now, I've seen murders take place. I've been involved in a murder, man. I've seen bad stuff happen throughout my life. But this was a different type of feeling. This was a feeling where I wasn't in control, where I felt like if I walked into this place, man, I might not make it out, right? And I'm an adult and I understand, man, and I see movies and I know that most of the shit is Hollywood and a lot of the shit is fabricated. A lot of these stories we hear, man, about the paranormal, these ghost adventurers and these people that go in and Ghostbusters and you hear that? You hear that? I don't hear shit, right? And look, I got a scratch right here. That's from your fucking old lady, man. If she ain't scratching, you think you got scratches, check your neighbor out. I bet you has scratches all on his back and shit. So, anyways, we walked around this place and we were there for about 5-10 minutes. And like I said, man, I wasn't about to go in. The homie wasn't about to go in. And so we went back. He started telling me how, locally, a lot of people have said that they've heard things, as far as parties being thrown there. And I said, maybe it's the bums. Maybe it's motherfuckers just break in, young kids, man, throw a spot to kick it, to drink. He said, nah, man, they actually seen lights and parties. So after being there and kind of feeling the way I felt, man, it was what it was. I kind of forgot about it until recently when I started to do these videos, man, and people asked me to speak on the paranormal, speak on some scary shit. So here we go. I did my history on Los Coches Adobe house. So the place was actually built in the 1800s and it was a stagecoach. When stagecoaches would come in, they needed a place to stay, a place to dwell overnight, kind of like an inn, man, somewhere where you could fucking park the horses, get refreshments, sleep overnight and whatever. And this is back in the gold rush days. And in the gold rush days, a lot of miners used to be there. For those of you that don't know, man, when the San Francisco gold rush hit, Sacramento, San Francisco, man, there was a lot of different people that moved into the area. There was a lot of Asians that came from Asia, to mine. A lot of people came from all over the world because gold started to be a big commodity. It started to be something that everyone knew held a lot of value, it still does to this day. So there was a lot of gold miners, and with gold mining came a lot of turmoil, a lot of bullshit. There's always been a lot of stories about gold miners that would kill other gold miners to steal their treasure. People that would take other people's claims, they would mysteriously come up missing. And there's also been a lot of stories told on how some of these gold miners still roam the areas, man. Still in search of their gold. Not leprechaun shit, man, gold miner shit. So when it comes to gold mining, you're always going to hear the gold aspect of it and the thievery and the cunning shit that everybody was doing. But you're also going to hear the backstory and all the murders and all the different things that happened over gold. People getting gold fever. A lot of people went crazy. So there was definitely a lot of miners that used to keep, large amounts of gold on them at this place. And it's been said that, a lot of these gold miners were either robbed or killed at this actual place, that a lot of different things happened. Now, since this has happened, there's a lot of local people that have said that they have seen, a lot of apparitions. For those of you that don't know what apparitions are, they're silhouettes, ghosts, I've told you the story about the lady in white. About on Niles Canyon, how my uncle, actually drove through Niles Canyon and picked up the lady in white. And it was raining that day. And for those of you that haven't seen that story, refer back to my channel, man. You're going to see, go deep in the archives. It's there, the lady in white. So, and I believe them. To this day, I honestly believe them. So there's been people say they see a lady in black, a silhouette of a lady. Maybe she was an innkeeper. Maybe she was someone that was there in the 1800s that got killed or murdered. There's a well that's right in that area, right outside that building. And people have said that they hear voices and screaming coming from that well. They're thinking that there's an old story where there was a miner, or there were several miners that were killed and robbed and thrown in that well, and they're crying out, screaming out. Now, come on. In every fucking story, every haunting, there's always going to be a backstory to it. And when it comes to the gold miner aspect, it sounds good, right? It definitely sounds good, and you'll never know till you experience the paranormal what you believe and what you don't. They can make a believer out of somebody. Believe that. Facts. I've seen some things that are crazy. So anyways, in the 1800s, this place, there was definitely a lot of stuff that happened. The place got shut down. And one of the mysteries about this place is there was a wallpaper that was put up and people took pictures because it's a historic building. It's now one of the most oldest buildings still that was erected that's still there. And someone took pictures. I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been there for years, but it was there at the time that I went. Anyways, so when the person took a picture of this place, the wallpaper that they had just put up was not showing, but the old wallpaper from prior was showing. It's crazy because, I've always noticed in a lot of these paranormal stories, people will take pictures and they won't notice while they're taking the picture a ghostly figure. They won't notice while they're taking a picture, something, blood on the wall or something, until the picture's developed, and then they see what they didn't see then. And no one believes you. And when you have a paranormal experience, that's what I've learned. A lot of people don't believe shit. Okay? I'm going to tell you what's going on right now. That experience there, like I said, was unlike a lot of experiences I had because I felt something. I felt like I guess the presence of death or nothing evil, but like I said, I wasn't going to come back if I went in there. So I didn't. There's been a lot of people in that area that see things, hear things. And, maybe something happened way back in the days and maybe there are spirits that are still there. I know the mayor of the town doesn't want to go in that place. They interviewed the mayor and he said, man, he's heard so many stories. He's been in that area for so long. And someone who's within the city council, someone who's ingrained and homegrown in the area would know the backstory. That's kind of like another house, man, I wanted to speak on. Since I'm speaking on this, I'm going to tell you about a house I went into. Or I went around. So there's a home in Merced, California, where a very big story happened. And if you haven't heard the story, it's called the Steven Stainer story. They made a Lifetime movie out of it. It's a trip because of, his brother actually ended up becoming the Yosemite serial killer, Cary Stainer. So I grew up in that area, in Merced. The Stainer house was well known. Just a smaller home, just a family, man. But But the cool part about the story was, Steven Stainer, who was a young kid, was abducted, when he was on his way to school by this crazy dude and held, till he was like, I think 17 or 18 years old. Eventually he was able to escape, help another kid and get away. That's how the story went. And I was around during these times. I was young, but I was around. So I was hearing the stories. When this kid came back, he was labeled a hero, man. People couldn't believe that, you survived. Most kids don't survive when they're abducted. They're usually dead within the first 48 hours. But this kid lived. Anyways, a couple years later, he ends up getting into a motorcycle accident and passing away. And his brother, I don't know if his brother went crazy at the point of his brother being abducted, what the family was going through. Maybe the family wasn't showing him enough attention. Either way, he turned into a serial killer. Right now, he sits on death row. Right now, he's incarcerated, locked up for the murdering of several women in Yosemite. He cut their heads off, all kinds of crazy shit. And it was a trick just based on, one brother's story got the family known, and then the other brother did some crazy shit. Maybe he just wanted a little recognition. Maybe he wanted a little, maybe he wanted some clout. In any case, that area right there, we used to go by that home all the time, thinking that house was possessed and there was some evil spirits there. So one night, me and my homeboy took a walk over there. Me and a couple of homies. We took a walk over there just to go trip out on it. It was just a regular house from the outside. Again, the presence that I felt when I went to the Adobe house, I could feel there. And it's a feeling that something ain't right. Not necessarily evil or crazy, but something just ain't cool. You don't feel comfortable. And maybe that's your mind playing tricks on you. Maybe you're expecting to feel that way, so that's the way you feel. When you hear a haunted story or a scary story, and then you go to the place where a murder took place or something like that, you feel like something's gonna happen. Something's hiding in the bushes. Something's lurking, and maybe that's just your mind playing tricks on you. But I definitely felt that same feeling. So I was looking into this story and just having been there. And I see that the ghost adventurers, these guys that go film all over the world or all over the United States, the most haunted places, actually went to the Adobe house, went in and said that there was a very heavy presence of paranormal activity. I don't know if it's true or not, man. I just know what I could tell you, the feelings that I had. Okay, so let me tell you one more little story, man. So my grandfather, lived in Mexico, right? Had a ranch in Mexico in Zacatecas. And when my mother and her brothers and sisters, when they were younger, or her sister when they were younger, they were in Mexico for a little while, living with their father, visiting. And he had these three-wheelers, and I've told this story before for those of you that remember, but I'm just gonna, it correlates with this. So they had this three-wheelers. Remember back in the days, not quads, but three-wheelers. They were a little bit more dangerous. I think they stopped building them, stopped making them, and started making four-wheelers, quads. They were easier to ride, more sturdy. Back then, he had three-wheelers on the ranch. And my three tios used to go ride those three-wheelers all day. They had, I think, two of them, man. They'd jump on them and ride them, throw my mom and her sister on the back, and they'd be getting it, little kids. Well, out in Zacatecas on the ranch, there was a lot of sand dunes where you could, race these motorcycles. Not race them, but, ride. Kind of dirt paths, dunes, or whatever. And so my grandfather told the kids, look, you guys could go ride. And they took one out there. But don't stay out past dark or the little people are going to get you. Now, I don't know if you've heard about the little people of Mexico. There's been a lot of people. It's been an urban legend or stories told how there are these little people that live in Mexico. And they've been seen. They've been spotted by a lot of people, right? So my tio told me this story. My mother confirmed it. My aunt confirmed it. It's facts, right? There's no sugarcoating here. These aren't the type of people to bullshit you or try to scare you. They're just trying to pay their bills. They don't give a fuck about none of that. But we got to talking and they told me this story that it started to get late. And what happened was one of my tios flipped the three-wheeler and the wheel came off. So he sent my other uncle back. And these are young. They're probably 12, 13 years old at the time. My mom and them were, my mom was the oldest. But of course she's a girl. So they sent my other uncle back to grab some tools so they could fix the tire. And, it's already getting late, sundown. They wanted to hurry up and get back so they could eat. And that was that, And my uncles were working. My other uncle leaves. My mom and her sister are there. And all of a sudden, man, they start to hear something. And they see a bright light over one of the little dunes, right? And so when they looked over, To this day, my mother and my uncles and them said they seen a whole bunch of these little people. When I say little people, I'm not talking about, small, what do you consider midgets or small people. I'm talking about like dwarves, like little people, right? Real tiny people dancing around a fire, looking all crazy, speaking in a different language. And they took off running. They took off running, left the bike there, ran. They told my grandfather when they got to the ranch, hey, this is what we seen. He said, I told you, don't fucking be out there in dark. There's little people. So the paranormal definitely does exist. This home, or not home, but this building, being built in the 1800s, I noticed that a lot of these older buildings, a lot of these dwellings, Victorian homes, man, they definitely have they're like doorways to a different realm or a spirit realm or whatever you want to choose to believe, man. I've never been, look it, man, I was a gang member, ex-convict, fucking now I'm a father just trying to be a normal man. But I definitely believe in different things because I've seen some shit, If there's good, there's evil. If there's evil, there's good. You have to understand that. I've told a lot of stories here that definitely dealt with violence and the evil aspect of human nature, right? And you have to think, man, if you're a person that thinks in a normal person, normally thinking, what happens? Every one of us have looked in the mirror and say, man, what happens when you die? What happened? Where do you go? Are you a wandering spirit, man? Do you go to heaven? Is there hell? Well, we've all asked these questions, and a lot of us, coming from the life of gangbanging or street gangs or whatever, never wanted to put that out there because you're looked at as a J-Cat or a fucking weirdo. Hey, homie, who gives a fuck where you go? Let's just go. We're going to the store right now to get beer, right? No one cares. But we've always asked ourselves, where? What? There's definitely some crazy shit that happens and that's going on in this world. And unless you choose to believe it or not, that's totally up to you. If you're one of those people that lives in a bubble that believes, everything's going to be all right. Nah, everything's just made up. Nah. When something happens to you or you finally experience something different, then you'll be a true believer. I've heard a lot of crazy stories, seen a lot of crazy things. One thing I could tell you for sure is when I went to the Adobe house in Soledad, man, I definitely felt like something bad was around. Something happened there. Whether you choose to believe it or not, that's totally up to you. Anyways, with that being said, I wanted to throw that out there real quick because people have been asking me about these scary stories, man. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys and bullshit you and give you the runaround and some fakery, man. I'm just going to tell you the real. Going to that actual place, like I said, I didn't know the backstory. I thought it was just a fucking beat up building, an abandoned building. But as we pulled up and I looked at it, you could definitely get an eerie sense of something's going on there. Facts. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the struggle to strive, the struggle. If you want me to continue some of these stories, man, let me know. Because I got a whole lot of more for you. Bang, bang.